everyone, and welcome back to another episode on our YouTube channel RescoliByCarlo. First and foremost, do not forget to subscribe. There's the subscribe button underneath this video. Push that button, and every video that comes out weekly from our channel, you would get notified, and obviously you can watch at your own time and at your own leisure. What's going to happen today? Today is a special episode. We are going back to basics, and we'll be showing you piece by piece, bit by bit, and tip by tip what you need to do when you are starting painting your furniture. Some time ago we did a Maltese version of this video, which was very well followed. Thank you very much. But this time we're doing this one in English. So let's get started. And the first thing that you have to do is change your clothing. Never forget to change clothes. Use clothes that you wouldn't be going out with, obviously. In our case, we have a wardrobe full of clothes full of paint. So to avoid that, start by changing your clothes. And that way we are ready for our job, our paint job. And second thing, after changing the clothes, obviously you would need to clean your furniture. Why do we make such an emphasis? The emphasis is there because especially if it's a kitchen or an old piece of furniture, it would have on it some stains or some grease or exhaust or fumes or even chemical products used in the past. So by cleaning the furniture, that way you will be getting rid of all these stains and whatnot. And here we are going to use the sugar soap. After cleaning our furniture, the next step is sanding lightly, especially if there is varnish or wax. When there's varnish or wax or even oil-based paint, it's very important to sand lightly because water-based paint wouldn't adhere on the furniture. In this case, we always use Frenchic Furniture paint, and a good preparation gives a very good result. So if you clean well and you sand lightly very well, then you will get a very good result in the long term. Let's go sanding our piece. For this little project, we are going to use the Frenchic Alfresco paint. The color is Greyhound. I know that gray colors are very popular right now, so we're just showing you how to apply this paint and obviously see the results. Some tips on the paint. Why a water-based paint rather than an oil-based paint? Well, Frenchic has no extra VOCs in it, so there's no inhalants, there's no chemical reaction on your skin or in your breathing. The difference with oil-based paint is that oil-based paint has extra VOCs in it, and they are based on allergens. So if you suffer from any allergies, even sinusitis, asthma, or any other reactions to the skin or to your breathing, please avoid using oil-based paints. And another difference is that the alfresco takes about 2 to 3 weeks curing time. That is when the water is evaporating from the paint and the sealer is taking over. With the oil-based paint, it's the same, but you can't touch the furniture. With alfresco, after the first 24 hours, you can use the furniture, obviously handling with care and trying not to bump into it so that the sealer takes over, and then you're ready to clean your furniture after those first 3 weeks. Another tip would be the brushes. Why a round brush? Why a flat brush? Well, Frenchic has you covered. You have both. You can purchase both flat brushes and round brushes. In this case, we're using both to show you the difference between the two, and if there is any difference, of course, because for me it's a matter of choice, what you prefer to paint with, either a flat one or a round one. As you can see over here, we used on this half we used a round brush, and in this half we used a flat brush. There's no difference whatsoever with the brush, so it is a matter of personal choice. We prefer using the round brushes because with the round brushes we can go like this in the corners and we can cover practically everywhere with just one stroke. So a lot of you might be asking, but how much paint did you put? I put a normal amount on the brush. Basically I just only use this upper part here and then move the paint and cover as much as I can with just one little bit of paint at a time. So here we're covering it and preparing it for the second coat. You might also be asking, but how many coats should I put? Should one coat be enough? Well, sometimes yes, but being an alfresco for this project, it is recommended to do 2 coats within the first 24 hours. Why? The reason being that doing 2 coats within the first 24 hours will help in the weatherproof process. Remember that alfresco is also good for outside, and doing these 2 coats, all the benefits of the sealer will be used. So make sure that you cover accordingly. Now we'll leave it a little bit, between an hour and 2, to dry, and then we do the second coat. Now that our second coat is done and dusted, we'll leave it to dry. In this case, the Greyhound made quite a huge impact. We just needed 2 coats to cover it all. We're making sure that we're covering everywhere with the paint, obviously, and that way we'll have a very good finish. So when it dries, it's practically ready, except if you want a little bit of sheen on your furniture. And I'll be showing you how to do that the sooner. Some of you might ask, but if I'm doing a kitchen, should I do only the front of the doors and the cabinets, or should I do the inside as well of the cabinet? First and foremost, it's a matter of preference. So if you prefer having both sides of the doors and cupboards painted, make sure that you do it, obviously. I usually start from the inside. Once dry, then I can close the door or the cupboard, and then I do the outside. So basically, it's just a matter of how practical you can be, and that way I see that it's a very practical way of painting doors. Some will be asking as well, but should I remove them from the hinges or should I paint directly in place? I, for one, prefer painting directly in place, for the reason being that hinges sometimes play tricks. So if it's an older kitchen, the hinges might not support themselves once you try to put the cupboards in place. So make sure that your hinges are well and truly good. If they're good, then you can remove them and work in your workspace, in your garage, etc. It depends always if you want to remove them or not, obviously. And one last thing would be, what do I do with knobs? Well, knobs, you can use your own, obviously, and you can also change them to your own heart's desire. There's also people who paint them with the Frenchic, which is a very nice color, and with this color, which is Greyhound, I would suggest going with copper, not gold. Copper is a very nice, cool color, which is very trending right now, and it really blends well with grays. So make sure that if you're going to have new knobs, you perhaps might consider copper. Here are also some tips to consider. First and foremost, if you think that you are still not able to do such a project, I would suggest you practice on a loose piece of wood. That way you can start getting the feel of the brushes, how they work. You get also the feel of the paint, and that way you can work easily on your pieces of furniture. So practice makes perfect. Another tip is how to wash your brushes. What I do, I put some fairy liquid on my hand and just scrub the brush on my hand and then clean under water. The paint is eco-friendly, so it wouldn't do any harm to the drains or to the water system in the long run. So you're safe there as well. I do this process of cleaning the brushes between each coat. The reason being that, especially with the Alfresco range, which has a sealant in it, there would be a tendency of the paint sticking on the outside of the brushes. So I do it regularly after each coat. Another tip would be on how to store the paint. This particular tin has been open for at least 3 years, and the paint is still perfect, as you have seen me working with it. What you have to do is lock really well the tin. Some put a piece of plastic between the tin and the cover so that it would easily be removed. Sometimes I do it, sometimes I don't. Close well and store in room temperature. Avoid humidity and excessive heat. But if for some reason in the long run you go a year or two after the first use of the tin and you find it a little bit thick, you just put some tepid water in it and obviously whisk as much as you can, and the paint can be reused. So there is not much waste with Frenchic, even in the long run. So store well, room temperature, avoid humidity and a lot of heat, and also temperatures below 0. I know that in our island we don't really get below 0 temperatures, but in other countries from which you follow us, the temperature might be very low, way below 0 degrees. So avoid that and find a place in your home that's safe to store your paints. Sometimes a kitchen cupboard would be the best suited place to store your paint. With both the alfresco and the laser range from the Frenchic Furniture paint, you do not need to prime before and you do not need to seal afterwards, because they are self-priming and self-sealing. Many of you ask us, but why does this happen? Because we are accustomed to other chalk paint products that you have to do a sealer before, afterwards, you have to prime before. Well, Frenchic has you covered. The only thing you need is the color of your choice and obviously a tin of paint. So that's basically it. If you want to have extra protection, which in the case of alfresco, for example, you don't really need to, not even with the laser range, but if you want that extra layer of protection, or it makes you feel safer, or you want a little bit of a sheeny surface, then you can go either with wax or with finishing coat. In this case, we are using the finishing coat so that we can show you how the sheen is showing. The last step to have a little bit of a sheen on our furniture is applying the finishing coat. First, you have to let the paint dry really well. Some people do it after curing time, some others leave aside for 24 hours before applying this finishing coat, and some just do it after the 2 hours required for the paint to dry. And this is how I apply it. You can apply it with a brush, you can apply it with a sponge like I do. So here we have just a sponge like this. I cut it into small pieces and then I apply the finishing coat this way. Why do I cut the sponge this way? Easy, because that way I can go in the nooks and crannies like this, and then we can continue all throughout the process. If you noticed, when I was painting, I was using the vein of the wood with the brush. So basically, even with the finishing coat, I just go according to the wood vein so that the paint is nicer to look at. And if by any chance there are some brush strokes, they wouldn't show. Also, after applying the finishing coat, I use the dry part here so that I remove all the excess finishing coat I may have put on the furniture. That way I will have a subtle finish. Also, I can apply a second coat after some time if I want a little bit more of a sheen. And basically this is the project for today. And as you can see, it's a little bit shiny. When the finishing coat dries, it gets less shiny. So if you want a little bit more, you do another coat of finishing coat on it. And here, as you can see, is all the process we went through throughout this video for today. We went to the basics. What we did, we cleaned with sugar soap, we sanded it lightly, then we gave 2 coats of Greyhound from the Alfresco range, Frenchic Furniture paint obviously, and then when dry we used some finishing coat so that the paint looks a little bit, the finish would look a little bit sheeny. In my case, I prefer having a matte finish, so I wouldn't be using the finishing coat, but in this case I used it for you so that you can see how the process is done and obviously to your liking. Thank you very much for following this particular episode. Basic tips and basic information on how to start painting your furniture. If you have any questions, any queries, any curiosities, or any issues, please write under this video in the comment section, and we'll be pleased to answer you back with an answer or answers, or sending you somewhere else within our YouTube channel to follow through the processes. I hope you liked this episode. See you next time. Ta-ta. After the cleaning and letting it